first of all, talk about the liquidation sales. What exactly does this mean as the company begins to liquidate?
Marcia, good morning. You mentioned it could start as early as today. However, they covered a lot of ground in court on Monday, and the judge has given all parties much of the day to continue working through some outstanding issues, but did not provide a specific timeline for when a decision could be made. Now, the court filings, Marcia, really paint a bleak picture for the centuries-old company, owing close to $1 billion to creditors, with landlords and suppliers chasing them down for cash. And so far, the Bay has not convinced anyone to help keep the lights on and the doors open. So here is what a full liquidation could mean. All 80 stores, 3 Saks Fifth Avenue and 12 off Fifth locations. It would ultimately, it is being opposed, by employees because it could lead to mass layoffs. As you mentioned, 9,000 jobs are on the line across the country. Here's more from a lawyer representing employees on what it means.
The judge's comments were very helpful. I think there is going to be a lot of work happening right now over the next 24, 48 hours. He left it flexible, but we're hopeful something will emerge over the next 24 to 48 hours that will lead to a better result than a flat-out liquidation.
So, Marcia, when it comes to a flat-out and full liquidation, as you heard from the lawyer right there, Ontario will be hardest hit by this, as it has 32 stores and more than half of its workforce. BC has 16 stores, Alberta and Quebec each with 13. So it would be quite a loss to the Canadian retail landscape. Of course, this is the company that has been around for centuries.
355 years, I read this morning. So, Scott, what went wrong for the Bay? I think most shoppers would agree. You could tell that the stores weren't being kept up. I mean, what's the best and worst case scenario now moving ahead for the Bay?
Yeah, we've heard that from shoppers. They're kind of pointing to the last several years, decade plus, where they've seen a downturn, at least in the stores. And that's something that, shoppers can see with their very own eyes. But, really just a loss of foot traffic as well for department store shopping. Now, the process that lawyers for the company are proposing would allow the retailer to ultimately remove some stores from the mass sell-off from the liquidation if it can secure enough financing, potentially saving some of the footprint, meaning it could withdraw stores from the liquidation, but shrinking the company to a much more manageable size. The company has admitted it has been struggling to keep up with mounting costs for quite some time. So best case scenario, potentially a few stores could remain open, but as I mentioned, a much more manageable size going into the future, Marcia.
Scott, thank you for that. CTV's Scott Hurst this morning.